It's great to see you there. Actually, here for the people on Livestream, we'll we like to think of Kopernik as being sort of a place that plants seeds. And so sometimes the people that come here, some of the younger kids that come for a camp, like we just finished our summer camp season just about 4 or 5 hours ago. And these were for camps for kids either live streaming capabilities. Back in 2020 when COVID hit, it was clear that this was going to be a long-term issue. We started live streaming our programs, and we now have nearly 11,000 subscribers on our live stream. We've done a wide range of talks on a wide range of topics. We've also done a number of astronomical events with our live stream. In fact, actually back behind here is Jeremy Carty, who is we call him our live stream astronomer. He's done a number of events, but the most recent awesome one was back in May. There was a lunar eclipse. Did anybody catch the lunar eclipse back in May? Well, it was on a Sunday night into Monday night, and we were very fortunate that it was cloudy, and then all of a sudden, just as the eclipse was about to start, the clouds just parted for those 4 hours. And at one point, we had over 25,000 people on our YouTube stream. The chat was flying by like a CVS receipt. And in fact, people were saying that a number of people had said that we were watching NASA's live stream, but we like yours better, so we're staying here. So it's been great to be able to reach people literally around the world. And again, people think of, some people in the area think of Kopernik as 3 telescopes on the top of a hill, but we're really much more than that. And tonight, we're fortunate enough to have Dr. Keith Werkman, who also is a member of the Kopernik Astronomical Society, the astronomy club that meets here. And he's going to sort of revisit a talk that he's done in the past, and because it keeps changing, doesn't it? On artificial intelligence. So without further ado, I'll introduce Dr. Keith Werkman.
Test, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? Go ahead. All right. Well, hi. As Drew said, I'm Keith. I've been with the Kopernik Astro Society for quite a while. We've got some members in the audience here, other gentlemen you'll meet tonight, folks. I'll help you look at the stars. But Drew asked me to give a talk today, so I said, well, I've done a bunch in the past on astronomy stuff and future talk, and I said, well, let's pull out just the AI piece. So my last talk here, I guess, was last year on self-driving cars, and that was pretty in-depth. But I thought, well, tonight, kind of make it more lightweight. Just talking about AI in general. Because it is actually everywhere if you look around. We'll ask some people here what do you think AI is. So hopefully it'll be a fun talk tonight. We'll generalize it, go not too deep, give some examples of what's going on out there. But first, we'll do a side trip. I look at Jeremy here. Is this real? The 29th, they're going to do it? You think? Oh, okay. This is Artemis. This is going to be launched back to the moon, by the way. Sorry, we do space stuff here too, by the way. So. And so this is the latest thing I saw come across today, and I guess they're going to try to launch on the 29th at 8:30 in the morning. So hopefully we'll have another rocket going back to the moon, which will actually loop around the moon, I think, right, as a test flight. So I thought I'd throw it out there just for the public, and maybe we'll do some more stuff on that as it gets closer. As of Jeremy. Okay. So this is taken from my Future Technologies talk. We talked about things like 3D printing and nanotechnology and all that sort of stuff. This is just kind of an AI piece. And so, yeah, near times, every 5 or 15 years, AI is just increasing at an amazing rate. I gave this talk originally back in 18 and 19, And I said I could do self-driving one in 21, but things have changed so much since then and just gotten better and better. And why is AI taking off? Because you may have heard in the past of the AI winter. When I was going through graduate school, yeah, I'm older now. Back in the, let's say the 80s, there was an AI winter where we had great promises from the people of the 50s, and it just didn't pan out. Basically, we didn't really have the computing power to really do some of the things we wanted to do, and there were two thoughts. Basically, good old AI, which is rule-based systems. You may have heard of rules, if-then-else rules. Well, that's how we kind of started. And then there's this weird kind of flaky group doing neural nets off to the side here in the 80s, right, and the 90s. And it really took off in 2000, 2010s, where you need lots of data to kind of simulate, well, they say patterns of the brain, neurons of the brain. So anyhow, so basically we have increasing computing power, and we have all this power in the cloud now, the Internet of Things, that's our future. So basically I'm talking about some robot interactions, man-machine, self-driving cars, because, right, that's big in the news. And certainly what sort of drives all this stuff, deep learning, and even something called cognitive computing, where the researchers on the brain side of the world have come together with the researchers on the computer science side of the world and said, hey, maybe we can model things close to what the brain is doing. And so we'll try. I've got a couple of videos here because they give good background and why should we produce what others have done. So let's let this play for a little bit here. Get a little overview. Hopefully the volume's good enough. I'm going to go for a few minutes.
People have a perception of what AI and robotics should look like from Hollywood.
What do I call you? Do you have a
Yeah,
name?
can we boost the volume a bit? Sorry, Jeremy.
Samantha.
Oh, we need to test this one.
Hey, where'd you get that name?
I'll take the main
I gave
output.
it to myself, actually.
You've seen happy robots, sad robots, complex
Or-
robots.
and-
But in reality, it looks
There
like
we go.
I understand
Oh, I get it.
data, how I'm coded, but I do not understand the things that I feel.
The first 50 years of AI were sort of dominated by rules, by logic, by reasoning. And the idea was that you program an AI system by writing out a set of rules, and the computer can obey these rules and logically interpret these rules and follow them. And if you get the rules just right, you can do lots of interesting things. From the very first days when people created the first computers, they already started to think about how to create intelligent machines for cracking codes, for simulating physical phenomena and so forth.
The task they set it, to stack blocks, was on the face of it child's play.
We had things like a machine that could first win a master level checkers player in 1957. We had a machine that would beat the world champion in chess in 1997. But that was all rule-based AI. I would say the next big milestone started to happen when AI transitioned from rule-based systems to machine learning-based systems. With machine learning, all the intelligence actually comes through probabilistic analysis of data. And unlike rule-based systems, machine learning systems get better the more data they get. Telling the difference between a cat and a dog, we intuitively know to do that very well, but it's very difficult to articulate the rules. And it turns out it's the same thing for a computer. If you try to do that with rules, it doesn't work. But since 2012, that suddenly became possible. When you teach a computer, you give them examples of thousands of pictures of cats and thousands of pictures of dogs, they learn how to do it pretty well and even surpass humans. One of the first big high-profile game show milestones in AI is Watson winning Jeopardy about a decade ago.
Hello, 17,973, and a two-day total of 77,147.
And just recently, AlphaGo winning the world championship in Go.
AlphaGo has won again, 3 straight wins.
3 straight wins, has won the match in great style.
So we're seeing this rapid acceleration, this exponential growth in AI as machines not only learn from exponentially growing data, but they're also growing by teaching each other. For example, when it comes to driverless cars, a human can have only one lifetime of experience of driving, but a driverless car can have many lifetimes of experience of driving because it can learn from all other cars. So in a strange way, the more driverless cars there are on the road, the better each one of them gets. We we've seen increasingly how challenges that were sort of resistant to solving using rules turned out to be solvable using machine learning. If I look forward, there's still milestones that are coming our way. Machines that generate things, generate images, generate music, generate art. There are art pieces that win art competition that are painted by a robot. Machines that generate engineering designs, everything from antennas to circuits that have been designed by machines now that outperform what humans can design.
How are we different from a computer? What else do we have?
It's not human. That's what I said.
Right.
People don't have buttons and a computer does.
What buttons on your shirt?
Will AI ever be sentient? To me, the answer is yes. And when the AI systems begin to take that incredible intelligent power and model themselves, they begin to have self-awareness, they begin to have feeling. It's not going to be one day your computer wakes up and is sentient. It's going to be a very gradual process.
I want to be more like a human. It's the purpose I was designed for.
People always ask, will robots reach human-level sentience? And the answer is that there's no reason to think human-level sentience is the ultimate sentience possible. Machines will keep learning, they'll get there, and they'll continue. You know, there's a lot of people who worry about AI getting out of hand, and there's a lot of doomsday scenarios around AI.
I do think we have to worry about it. I don't think it's inherent that as we create superintelligence that it will necessarily always have the same goals in mind that we do.
We just don't know what's going to happen once there's intelligence substantially greater than that of a human brain.
I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race.
I think AI will evolve to be different. It doesn't experience the world the way we experience it.
Well, I take it from your tone that you're challenging me. Maybe because you're curious how I work?
We'll know things we don't know. We'll know things that the AI can't perceive, and it's going to be like a different species.
Now that you're all properly creeped out, we can
How's that? Oh. All right, turn it back down. Yep. Okay. Sorry, I guess I'll stand back. Going from the screen, I must stand back. So with ever increasing computing power comes greater computation and greater things we can do. And so, cut the volume again. So basically, in my day, when I started computers back in the late 70s, we had your simple PC and stuff like that, IBM PC. But nowadays, you see on the top of the graph here, every 12 months to 18 months, computing number of transistors per unit, usually square inch, is increasing. And they say we might hit the theoretical limit. This is Moore's law, the inventor, creator of Intel, the initial co-founder, Gordon Moore. There, as you can see, it's we have at the very top here. We actually have somewhere it says Tesla's Dojo computer, which is a bunch of processing units like Google's cloud. And oh, there it is. Yeah, Dojo at the top there. Bottom line is, as computing increases, and we now have the capability of doing more things, and yes, we can play games, but also we'll do greater things. And the bottom line is, the reason the neural nets side of the AI equation took off is because we now could process lots of data, and we can train on lots of data, which we couldn't do in the past. So here's a slide from my earlier talk on future technology. This is our friend, Dr. Kurzweil, who eventually became director of the Google Brain Project. He's a futurist, predicts what's going to be happening. And his prediction is quite on target so far. he's suggesting, well, this exponential growth, and this is an older slide, but it shows here 2015, do we surpass enough computing power of a mouse? 2022, we're getting close. They're saying 2023 will surpass what a brain has. Well, we're not quite there yet, so I think we'll push this out a little more. But things are getting quite impressive and quite close. And so because of the hardware, we have the Internet of Things, right? You guys probably have a smart home where you talk to it, maybe you have Alexa at home or your Google Assistant and such like that. Quite impressive. Electronics are very modular chunks now. Like I said, with the chips, we're reaching our limit of our flat square, if you will. But people like IBM are actually building in 3 dimensions now with their gates arrays like that. So it's very impressive. Even layers going 3-dimensionally. So Moore's law is got a new lease on life to expand, put more transistors per square, or in this case, cubic unit. And so smaller, faster, less power. And now we can do crazy things with that. And so all these things are happening. The Internet of Things, $11 trillion industry by 2025. This is all just for computing power itself, and it's all done without AI. But what if we actually start bringing intelligence or some example of intelligence to these things? Where is this all held? I mentioned before, it's in the cloud. These are pictures of both, I guess, this one of, I think, Amazon's and the other one's Google's data centers. These are just located geographically around the country, have lots of power, backup, lots of security. They maintain all the data about us. Think about Google, for instance, right? They have a lot of data about us, right? That's why they can do these great predictions. That's why I bring up my phone and I can talk to a Google Assistant here, right? We have AI right in our pockets, and I ask questions. Google, what is GPT-3?
According to Multi-Health Systems USD, the Connors continuous performance test.
Wrong one. I should have clarified and said GPT-3. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have said Wikipedia and looked it up. But you get the idea. So it'll talk to you. It'll find things. It knows what you're interested in. It targets ads at you and things like that. These are all done in these large data centers, which are out there. Which then brings up other issues of societal issues like, should we have so much data out there about us, which they can make models of us. Right? Kind of scary. And you'll see in other tech where they can actually start modeling us, our voices, our faces. It makes you wonder, can you steal identities? Anyhow, the then and the now. The then, my good old days, AI was classical things like theorem proving and expert systems. And remember what an expert system was? That's your simple if-then-else rules. There are going to be jobs called knowledge engineers. You're going to go and sit with an expert. And I'm going to ask that person, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you play that video game? And all those details will come out of that person. I'll write a bunch of rules, and then the system will run and act sort of like human intelligence. But it's very brittle. It's very much in a box. If you go outside what the rules don't know, system fails. We can't have that for things like self-driving cars or diagnostic systems that replace your doctor or your lawyer. Think about these things. These are things that are going to be coming. So we used to have what's called good old-fashioned AI. We had to represent the knowledge in certain ways. We had something called fuzzy logic, which is actually is partially what's in neural nets now with various weights on the neurons. Those are just simple 0 through 1 probabilities we used to put on rules to kind of simulate that sort of stuff. Dr. Lofty Zeta was the founder of that. I actually met the guy at one point. Planning systems, we used to plan things like you saw earlier in the picture about robots doing blocks rolled, moving with its robotic arm back and forth, and where it should go, how it should avoid things, with cameras just watching. Things like optical character recognition. Out in Owego here, I used to work for Lockheed Martin in the advanced tech group. We did OCR to, well actually, we read your mail, just the outside, the address block, and we can actually analyze that, map the right address for the postal database, and print the barcode, the postal net barcode in the bottom, so that way the mail gets sorted properly and arrives to you. So I have a patent on one of those actually, and we do this out in Owego. We do all your postal systems, by the way. Vision systems to recognize objects, that's a big thing. We have self-driving cars. You've heard of Elon Musk probably, right? And he's saying, I want to use vision, just like humans. We have two eyes, I want 2 cameras, and we'll try to do the same thing, have the cars see the world and understand the world. And they're getting pretty good at that. Speech recognition, speech generation. See, these are all subsections of what AI was, which now is in the bigger picture of what AI encompasses. We just talked to, I don't know, Google Assistant on my phone. I don't have an Alexa with me, but I guess I could open the Alexa app and play the same game on a portable angle here. We had things like distributed problem solving and agents and chatbots. This is what my research was in back in the 90s, in the old days of the 90s. And of course, robotics, a nice area where we can have people who do mechanical engineering, human factors, how do people stand, how do they balance, they try to put this into a machine, and that's nice. The machine can do this. Now, will the machine act smart? Well, we'll go over to the computer science guys, AI guys, try to bring those guys in and try to link these systems together. So that's kind of the packaging, which leads to machine learning. These are programs that are self-altering. Basically, the neural networks will use lots of data, and through the various, I'll show a couple networks. So they'll actually put various weights on their nodes, and through lots of example training over and over, we'll see the proper patterns and say, this is the pattern I think I should do. And we as humans sit back and say, well, that looks intelligent, so therefore that's probably intelligent. Like turning the steering wheel at the right time to avoid someone on the road if it's a self-driving car, things like that. And of course, they got better, and it's called deep learning now, where we have many hidden nodes inside of a neural network, which have all these other things we don't quite understand, but it works really darn well. And so that's one of the problems, actually. How do we actually explain neural networks to make them certifiable so we know they're doing the right thing? This is one of the research issues. But they do require massive data sets and such like that. We saw in the video Watson beating Kasparov in 1997 there for Jeopardy. For chess, and of course Watson was also, that was Deep Blue. Also Watson was used for actually the Jeopardy program. We saw the guy losing Jeopardy. Google has a group called DeepMind, which actually was a research group in England, which still exists sort of in England, but Google bought them in 2010 or 2015, I think, and brought them over. They were founded back in 2010, and they've got many of these alpha somethings, AlphaGo. So if you know, we solved the problem playing chess and checkers with simple rules. But Go is a program, a Chinese game, which has billions and billions of moves, and you really can't pre-guess where they are. It's almost like an intuition. And so the DeepMind guys, which Google bought into the Google Brain project, have written AlphaGo, which actually beat the world champion in China. And this was a big, it actually impacted Chinese people. They watched this for a whole week, like the Olympics. And when this gentleman lost 5 times over, they were like, oh my goodness. So, and it was the, somewhere else I say it was a crazy move 37, where someone opened on line 5. You work your way in from the outsides of the board, so to speak, as you try to capture certain parts of the board. And AlphaGo made this move, and everyone said, oh, dumb computer, ah. Turns out on the 37th move, where we put on line 5 as they're moving in, that was a decisive move, kind of intuitional move, which no one would ever did before, any human player in the world, which actually forced the game to win to AlphaGo's side. It's kind of amazing. So AlphaGo, pretty amazing. Then they made things like, it's supposed to say Alpha, Alpha Zero, where actually, and Mu Zero, which actually, the gentleman, another Elon Musk type gentleman, I can't think of his name offhand, so next slide, who actually was a founder of DeepMind from England. He liked to play video games, and he became a billionaire just doing video games, and then he started his AI company. And so he has programs which can play all the Atari games that are out there. And basically, like, you remember Space Invaders, things are coming at you like that, right? Or Breakout, where you have to bounce the ball back and forth and just kind of knock all the bricks out. It would play, and after 100 times, not so good, but after about 500 times, it figured out the sneaky rules of, well, with Breakout, if you hit the corner, it bounces off the top. Hey, you sit back and watch it go, and then it comes back, and you hit it one time, and it bounces a bunch. And so it figured these things out, all by not being trained. So this is very impressive. This is unsupervised learning, very impressive things. And so they've taken that stuff, they rolled it up one more time, something called AlphaFold. What is fold? Well, we're all a bunch of proteins and water and stuff like that. But proteins are important for medicine, health, anything like that. We don't know how to fold proteins properly. There's lots of different ways. AlphaFold is a program actually helping do that. That's one of the most recent contributions to society, actually. And with that, they'll have various researchers make new drugs, which will help us maybe do things like cure cancer. So that's very impressive. They also have AlphaCode coming after my job. I program computers. I can unplug it well. AlphaCode, you can talk to it, and it'll generate code for you using libraries out there, puts them together, and so you can create video games, all sorts of stuff by just talking to it. Simple stuff. But as it gets better, I'm getting close to retirement, so I guess I'm okay. But and then you have things like Gato on the top, which I guess Gato must be maybe Spanish for cat, I think the one researcher was saying. Bottom line is that has a bunch of these all linked together, and now they're trying to control robots. They'll say things from vision, right? Watching the game, to playing the games, the logic strategies, to coding. And so DeepMind is a competitor, if you will, to Elon Musk with self-driving cars. His company is called OpenAI. And so I think maybe this is why he had his big push to go down the path for his Optimus robot. We'll talk about that in a little second here. So, like I said, reinforcement learning, AlphaGo has, that's a lot of moves, billions of moves. The unexpected move 37 I mentioned already. So that's more recent. I said in the past we had Deep Blue when beat Kasparov in a chess game. That was the old AI. It was rule-based systems. This is actually neural nets and deep learning. Quick thumbnail. What is AI? Well, like I said, in the olden days, expert systems. And then we had planning and scheduling and optimization. These are good things for any company, right? Then we had some sort of simple pick and place like robotics. They weren't really smart. They didn't even have cameras, just no sensors, just basically I pick and place and I could feel stuff. Then we had more sensors and stuff and some intelligence made it a little smarter. Speech, text to speech, speech to text. You talk to your phone, right? Here, talk back to you. Natural language processing is a major area. Translation between languages is a big thing. Now we have Google Translate. You can talk to your phone. You can actually cut and paste on the website to Google Translate German and it'll talk to you in English. Wow, that's kind of nice, all within seconds. And also is in the cloud where the computing power is. Classification and clustering, information extraction, how to pull stuff out of documents. This is a big thing that we were talking about. Well, in the day when I was working for IBM, then L'Oreal, then Lockheed, out in WeGo, how to pull information out of intelligence reports to give intelligence to the DoD, for instance, what's going on in foreign countries. So that's all important stuff. And now natural language processing rolls into, with the speech stuff, we go text to speech, we take that text, throw it into natural language processing. And all of a sudden now, this is how, I asked for my little Google Assistant, right? It did text to speech, or speech to text rather. Text then went to the NLP system. It did a lookup for me, and it generated stuff back to me, and it went back speech, text to speech, so it talked back to me. So these two are just working together when you talk to your Google Assistant or your Amazon Alexa at home. These things are happening very fast across the net in California or Florida or Ohio or wherever these data centers are. Then we get to machine learning, where we can actually have the algorithm kind of modify itself and adapt, if you will. And that's where we get our neural nets and our kind of adaptive, more intelligent kind of systems, I guess you'd say. They're not as brittle as the old rule-based systems of expert systems. And of course, we have vision, image recognition, and then machine vision. This is a big thing, looking at the world, looking at pixels on and off, deciding what's a line and such like that. And all of a sudden you have borders and off you go to identify things. Computer vision, big data, let's see. We have sensors. Sensors allow us systems to interact. We have thermal imaging, like infrared imaging, medical imaging, x-rays, temperature sensors for light detection, motion, things like that. On top of the other guys' cars, we have LiDAR, which is laser ranging, light ranging. So exactly where things are in your environment. You have GPS, and then you have big data, which is a lot of things like weather patterns, public actions, road maps. This is how most of the current self-driving cars, I shouldn't say that, they are self-driving, from Google, for instance, are working in Arizona, in Phoenix. They have a geofenced area, they know where things are, and as long as that doesn't change, and it's sunny, because it's Arizona, never snows, they can drive around the road in their 50-mile range. It's very impressive. There's 600 cars or more doing this. All different type of cars. Used to be the little Priuses, but now they have all sorts of cars. And so let's see. When you fuse these things together, you get a bigger, better picture of the world, and we have things like autonomous driving and business planning and stuff like that. I mentioned LiDAR. This is one for I just pulled this in from the self-driving talk. Two different companies, Velodyne and Luminar. They basically shoot lasers out and they can identify where things are. But unfortunately, when you're in fog, it doesn't work so good. That's where radars work better. But these are things you'll see in many cars to do things like range finding for like when you're for active cruise control and things like that. Those might use radars, might use these sorts of things. We'll see. They're expensive, but they're getting cheaper. Musk, for instance, said, "I'm not doing those. I'm just going to do pure vision like humans do it." So he's solving yet another problem versus the other guys who are kind of doing a bigger problem of more sensor fusion integration. This is another one I had from my earlier talks. This is a video I had. I swapped with another video here. These are flying drones, right? Everyone, you like drones, right? You can fly them, they're cool, yeah? Boy, when I was your age, I like a pencil and I could spin it. Awesome stuff. Anyhow, so this is at University of Penn, the GRASP lab, the robot lab, had it. And the old video I had showed them flying around and flying in figure eights and through windows and stuff. That's boring. That's all, you know, to 2010. Now we have things like the aerial events, and I'll have a little video here I'm just going to show you. This was the most recent one was this one here, which was, and you don't really need the audio here. It's a little crazy music. It's one of the Tesla's Giga Texas. And what do you think those things are? What? You got it. Yeah, high five. And so they're drones. They have multiple lights on them, right? And basically, they can be programmed not to fly, not in simple 2D or 3D patterns, but truly 3D aerial aerobatics. And I don't want to delay too much here, but I'll kind of zip ahead if I can. Can I zip ahead a little bit? That should shake. Giga Texas. So this is their big thing. There's a picture of Elon's head. That's kind of scary, isn't it? And it's coming apart. Oh no! And as it spins around, it actually forms a car. So theatrics. It's kind of cool. Works great as long as not a lot of wind, probably, right? But so there you go. Not only is this cool for this sort of stuff, but you know the DoD likes this because they can fly drones and little tiny butterflies in people's windows and land on stuff and see what's going on. And this isn't really happening at Air Force Research Labs up in Rome, New York. So things like that. There's research going on. Your tax dollars at work, but all for the right reasons. So we'll forward this. How do I stop it? It's out of control. Okay. And then, of course, another cute video I have here. This is, once again, Boston Dynamics. You've heard of Boston Dynamics. You saw an earlier picture of the walking robots and stuff. There's more here. These were some of these field support things which allowed the troops to carry lots of stuff. As you can see here, Lockheed Martin had one, my former employer, where they actually carried lots of stuff on an autonomous, semi-autonomous, maybe it's controlled by a controller teleoperated, follows the troops as it carries their gear versus on your backpack, right? It's lighter that way. And we're in 2000 now, in 2010s and 20s. These are like ox, and they would walk autonomously and follow the troops. And so it's something the DoD paid for. Unfortunately, they were kind of noisy and loud, so they canceled the project. But just to show a little bit of this stuff.
Pioneering robotics company helping to lead in a technological revolution, or a sign of the coming robot apocalypse? Over the last decade, Boston Dynamics has built some of the most impressive robots in the world that can run, jump, and even dance better than some of us humans. This is the evolution of Boston Dynamics robots. Boston Dynamics was founded in 1992. The company started off by creating realistic 3D computer simulations for aircraft launch operations for the Navy. But not long after, they started making physical robots. The first robot Boston Dynamics created was the Big Dog in 2005. The robot was designed to be able to carry heavy gear for soldiers in terrains too rough for vehicles. Instead of wheels, it had 4 legs, allowing it to move across surfaces that would defeat wheels. Big Dog was 3 feet long and stood 2.5 feet tall, making it about the size of a small mule. Despite appearing absurdly awkward in early videos posted by Boston Dynamics' YouTube channel, the robot was surprisingly proficient at keeping its legs under itself. Even when it was kicked by its tester, the Big Dog did not fall. Let's just hope the robot will not take revenge on humans for this kick. Big Dog was able to carry 340 pounds and climb at a 35-degree incline. It was constantly tested by the military to make sure it could be used in combat. In 2010, Big Dog was improved. It could run at 5 miles per hour and handle different terrains. Nonetheless, the robot still appeared very awkward, and I couldn't stop laughing at a comment on their YouTube video. Quote, after years of research and millions of dollars, engineers were able to accurately reproduce the 2 drunken men carrying a sofa. Throughout the years, Boston Dynamics kept testing and improving Big Dog. Multiple iterations were made, including Little Dog, which just looks like a legged Wi-Fi router. Big Dog Olay, which hopefully one day can replace the tortured bulls in Spain. The Christmas versions of Big Dog are putting reindeer out of their jobs. Plot twist, the woman is a robot too. Alpha Dog, which could carry 400 pounds of payload on 20-mile missions in rough terrain. And in 2012, the latest generation known as the Legged Squad Support System, or LS3, was developed. It was a significant upgrade compared to Big Dog and could operate in hot, cold, wet, and dirty environments. It could also run faster at 7 miles per hour and was roughly 10 times quieter. One of the most exciting robots ever created by Boston Dynamics, named Atlas. It is a humanoid robot based on the Petman robot the company had created in 2009.
Atlas is the culmination of over a decade of hydraulic humanoid robotics work at Boston Dynamics.
Originated in 2013, Atlas stood 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 330 pounds. The company initially made the robot for the DARPA Robotics Challenge, a competition meant to accelerate robotics technology development to aid response efforts to natural and human-made disasters. The robot has undergone significant changes since its debut. In 2016, Atlas received a new design with a height of about 5 feet tall. The new version of Atlas is designed to operate both outdoors and inside buildings. It uses sensors in its body and legs to balance and LiDAR and stereo sensors in its head to avoid obstacles. Sadly, Atlas was heavily bullied and cyberbullying was taken to a whole other level. In 2017, Atlas was improved even further so that it could jump. But far more impressively, it could do a backflip. With the next generation in 2018, Atlas could run outdoors. Now he could finally escape from the physical abuse in the lab. I hope he's fine. During the development process, new techniques were developed, allowing Atlas to use its whole body with complex algorithms to calculate the speed and coordination of its movement. It learned to do parkour and could do tricks with a success rate of about 80%. You thought that was impressive? In 2021, the humanoid robot could finish a whole parkour. Man, it's crazy how fast Atlas gets developed. You might ask yourself, why did they teach the robot to do parkour?
At a practical level, it's a platform for us to do R&D on. And as an Atlas team, we're encouraged to push,
So that's Atlas, which is very impressive, which leads to, will we have such things as these robots in the future? And of course, we have our little buddy. I gotta go here.
And more agile than the Big Dog models that came before it. The size reduction came from using an electronic instead of gas engine to power its hydraulic tube channel.
And then now Spot is
robots the company
not only a robot,
had ever built.
like a robot dog,
Some
but also
versions also include an arm, allowing it to do more tasks like opening doors. This is the most watched video from the Boston Dynamics YouTube channel and has over 140 million views. And just like you would expect from Boston Dynamics, Spot was also heavily abused.
That's like my dog fights, wants to go outside.
Spot was also able to do more tasks autonomously, including navigating through the lab facility. It uses data from the cameras to localize itself in the map and to detect and avoid obstacles. Spot was the first robot the company released commercially. In June 2020, it became available for consumers for $74,500.
I think your mom may take a little, for $75K, she may say, let's get a Switch instead, or maybe. So that's, I just showed to give some examples of some of the things that these robots can do, and as they get smarter with their AI and sensor fusion, look out. I mean, we can get small little guys like the old Asimo, which is from Honda years ago and stuff like that, and even these small little guys, ABO and stuff like that, and Neo, but and it's true. So, I mean, these could be toys. Our toys are getting smarter for our children as well as they kind of hang with them, and we may actually build relationships with these things. It's kind of interesting. And Cosmo, that's right, Cosmo. He knows his stuff. I'm impressed. Okay, so as you saw, and Spot, right, the dog can actually do things for 90 minutes, and they'll get a better battery in the future. But it can do things like surveillance, probes, and stuff. As a matter of fact, even NASA's thinking about getting those to go to the moon or to Mars, wherever, and be able to help out the astronauts on the ground as they're moving around. Versus wheeled vehicles, as you see, if you emulate an animal like a horse or an ox, you can go all sorts of terrain like that. Very impressive, very impressive. Okay, autonomous cars. Let's wheel on this for a while here. They're getting bigger and better. Electric vehicles, self-driving, Tesla plus others. Most others are coming, but we'll see. Hard to have a car in the future without autonomy. Basically, if you go back, Elon Musk would say things like, well, in the old days, we had elevators, and had people in the elevators pulling switches to go floors up and down like that. Now you go in an elevator, what do you do? Just push what? A button. Yeah, it just does it. And do we think about it? No. So in the future, your future car will probably drive you at some point. Musk would say starting at the end of this year, but if the next decade maybe, we'll have something which will have a lot more support than the current systems. We'll see. Lot to go there. There's two different fields of thought there. One is Elon and his side, which is saying we're going to use computer vision. The other guy is using things like LiDAR and very detailed maps to know exactly where they are. But then, once again, almost like the good old AI, which had rules, if you didn't have the right rules, the system was fragile, it broke. So these people like Google, who have their Waymo group in Phoenix, Arizona, drive around their geo-fence 50 miles, they know exactly where things are. But when you're in a Google car, by the way, when you hail that taxi and sit in the back seat, and it drives you, it can get stuck at times. I've had videos in my other talk last year about road problems where there's a construction thing and a car can't pull out and it phones home for help, and so a Google Assistant lady comes on or a person comes on and helps you, and then they have a person drive up and they get out and they get in a car and they drive the car around the obstacle and then they get out and your ride proceeds. So once again, that's more of the, it works, but it's kind of brittle for those examples, and once again, Google's only doing this in sunny, non-snowy, non-foggy, non-rainy weather, good conditions. On the other side, Elon's saying, well, I'm going to do a general solution, like general AI, if you will, which is where he's trying to go with this. And he will actually try to make the car go from here to there, and it figures itself out. That's impressive. And we'll see if we get there. They're getting better. So we have better battery and sensors, the better AI technology. I said there's two types. You got most everybody on one side and Tesla on the other side. And I shouldn't say Tesla only on the other side. There's one or two more that are going down his path, but in my opinion, Tesla has just more miles because they've sold 3 million cars now, I think. I made 3 million, they're out there. And these cars are a fleet. And when they want to get an answer to something, they ask the fleet, how does this work? Or what does this look like? And all of a sudden, they have samples come in from the fleet. You're driving a car, you're helping Tesla by just driving your car around and seeing things. So it can sample this stuff, put it in its training computer, and retrain its algorithm, its neural net, to be better. For the other gentlemen, they're playing games with rules and stuff, so it's a little tougher. But we'll see. So driving aids versus full autonomy, that's the thing. ADAS, advanced driver assistance. These are good things. They'll keep you in your lane. They'll slow you down so you don't crash into things like that. That's important. But like I said, to be a truly open or generic system which can go from A to B and handle all sorts of conditions, that's what we'd like to get to. And so that's where Tesla's trying to go. To some extent, GM's got their Super Cruise, and Ford's got Blue Cruise. They're more ADAS systems. They're not quite there for full. You have to have the well-mapped road. So anyhow, this is a big thing. It's real. We see it. It's going to impact us in a big way. A lot of people are leaving to go join industry, and like I said, it's coming to a car near you someday. In the olden days, back when we had Google, and Google still has, like I said, they've got their great Waymo thing in Phoenix. And they got their 600 autonomous taxis and more. But it's important, and I guess like Musk would say, I just want to make the system better than humans, or at least as good as humans. That way, we will have less traffic deaths, because a lot of time wasted driving, a lot of deaths worldwide. If you make these cars smarter and safer, which I get a 2013 when I upgrade finally, I'll get a smarter car which at least has hopefully lane following and like Jeremy, your car even has all these safety features in, right? Your EV, sort of smart, it tracks, it follows, and stuff like that. So there's definitely things to help the driver. But at some point in the future, we'll truly take the steering wheel off. Who knows? And this is once I just reiterate the accidents: 3,000 people, 3,400 people. I guess the current calculation per year in the U.S. Auto accidents. It's just not a good thing. And the self-driving vehicles, when they're testing them, Google just had a handful of accidents because people ran into their cars. Oops. Here's what I was talking about, ADAS, auto driver assistance systems. This was an older example I had from Volvo, where the systems have cameras, they have sensors, and they can actually see your bounding box here. That's a human or something in the object, so I will stop or I'll warn the person. Nowadays, the cars actually will take control of the wheel and turn things or activate the brakes, which is very impressive. Even trucking, right? This is another big thing. Actually, part of the talk was about, will jobs go away? Well, jobs are going to change. Truck drivers, we need them. We have a lot of stuff stuck in the ports, right? And that's because they don't want to work tons of crazy hours and sit and idle and not get paid while they're sitting idling, burning your fuel. Why would I want to have a job like this? But, well, you got to feed America, right? You got to get things to people's doors. If we have automated trucks, and things are coming on the docks, local trucks, just automated kind of robot trucks that drive around just to move things off the ships and stack them in certain areas, then you still need the long haul guys to drive long haul. But Daimler and many other companies, this is the example of when it's lit up blue, it's driving itself. So you see that behind you, look out now. But basically they have safe driving distances, and basically they drive on highways. Just like I said, Ford has Blue Cruise and GM has Super Cruise. They're well mapped out roads. They tend to be in areas where there's no snow and good weather, out west usually. And these long hauls, that happens, the trucker can do other stuff. It'll follow the road, it'll slow down, will crash. When it gets near an exit, beep, 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 and also you take control, then you drive down to the local last mile delivery spot, because that's harder. Now, Tesla would say, well, our semi, which is going to come out this year, they claim, they roll that, they're self-driving in, maybe they'll just be smarter and it'll take you right down to the final location and might even back into the dock properly, who knows. But it makes people worry a bit. And then, of course, I had a slide here from Tesla. They've driven tons of miles, 10 billion plus miles. So they have lots of data to work on, and they have a fleet to go service this data out of. They're, I can't think of two guys who are competing. One is a young gentleman, well, he's mid-age now, is building, I can't think what it's called. He basically has a solution which is like a cell phone you can put on almost any car, which is a newer car, which has electronic control system, and that could be your self-driving system. It actually works not too bad. He's trying to follow Elon Musk's pure vision system with 2 cameras built into the device. Looks like a cell phone. That was a good catch. And that's something you can buy for like $3,000 and put on your current car if it's like a 2012 or older or something like that. It's something, yeah, I can't think what the company's name is offhand. But there are other solutions out there. But everyone else is going the other route, which is basically, well, we'll have all this information about the world and well modeled, and we'll use a lot of sensors to try to figure out what's going on. So, and eventually, maybe if cars become self-driving, maybe, well, they're saying, turns out like GM has a fleet just like Waymo of Google. There's out in San Francisco, Cruise Automation, and they're driving around San Francisco right now, well mapped, and they're taking things up down roads. Very impressive, actually. And so that's kind of their driver taxi fleet. But maybe in the future, you buy a car, and your car sits in your driveway how many hours a day, or at work? You drive it 10% of the time, and the rest of the time it's sitting. What if your car could just drive itself and make money while you're at home? It comes back, as long as there's not too much mess and puke in the car, maybe. You can actually charge for money and make money and pay back your car in 2 years or something like that. And the rest of the miles all making profit. So people are thinking about buying these cars that come self-driving and making money off them down the road. It's a quickie, self-driving from human in charge to robot in charge. Basically, most cars are level 1 or level 2, partial automation. They warn you, lane following, stuff like that. If we can get to levels 3, 4, and 5, this is where they all want to go. But I think Tesla's getting closer to this range here. The other guys are just more in this range here. And for most of us, maybe just having some safety system which warns us if someone's going to cut in our lane or keeps us in a lane when we're on a highway. If we're driving locally, maybe it's people don't want to give up that autonomy control. They just want to kind of do their own thing. But like I said, as cars get smarter, they're going to get safer. And for you and the person on the road and their family, that you don't injure and stuff like that. So, machine learning. Jeff Hinton and Rich Sutton were kind of the early guys in it, and back in, I'd say, the 2005 era. They really got deep learning for neural nets going. But as you see, in the 50s to the 80s, when I was in school, we had general rule-based AI. The machine learning was kind of starting when I was in graduate school, and I graduated here, my doctorate in 90. And these neural nets weren't quite there. But finally, we got more computing power and more data. And that's when they really took off and deep learning started, where we can actually have these large corpuses of road data or picture data, and the programs could sit and learn and see examples and then make their own internal rules, if you will. That's what we call deep learning. So AI was the basic stuff, as I said, machine learning, where they had the ability to change their programming. And then we have types of machine learning, which is part of the what's called deeper learning, which has hidden nodes. Anyhow. Supervised learning, where we actually will help the program as it's going through the data set. Unsupervised, where it's kind of doing its own thing in clustering. And then reinforcement learning, which actually has a feedback mechanism where it itself can feed back on itself. And there's something called generative networks, which are just impressive. They generate all sorts of artwork and speech and stories for the news and stuff like that. Matter of fact, some of the stories you might read on CNN or on these blogs have been generated by AI, looking at reading current events and generating summaries and plus putting them out there. And you think maybe a human wrote them. Maybe not. Various languages which are used. This is one slide I just threw out. There's lots of packages you can use, a lot of free stuff out there. That's just quite impressive. If you actually spend the time, you can actually kind of poke around and get a lot of online information. Examples of neural nets that start with the perceptron and feed-forward networks. The ones that are very popular for natural language processing is recurrent neural networks. The long and short-term ones, autoencoders. And then we have, moving on to deep convolutional networks and GANs. These are impressive. The generative adversarial network. That's where two computers, if you will, two networks fight against themselves. One watches, the other one, as it runs, the other one kind of, there's actually three, I should say. There's a baseline, something's going on, and then one is learning from it. And it can actually get better. And these GANs are kind of the next step, which actually lets you generate all sorts of neat things like speech and images and artwork and stuff. Kind of impressive. So like I said, CNN's convolutional networks, where for vision, those are being replaced by something else called transformers now. RNNs was more for your natural language processing, reading, and stuff like that. And then the deep reinforcement learning, or these neural nets which are learning on large corpuses, large sets of data. They're speech data, so it knows how to understand speech or generate speech. Or lots of images, so it knows what a cat looks like or a dog looks like, things like that. Like I said, I throw out here, once again, the two companies to watch are OpenAI, which is Google. Musk's found that back in 2015, and his group's got a lot of cool stuff. And of course, Google has the company that bought DeepMind from England, 2010, which has all the AlphaGos and stuff like that, AlphaFolding proteins. And Dolly, that's something that actually came from OpenAI. I'm going to give an example of that. It's kind of pretty cool. But some of the stuff, it just sort of works. So that's one of the research questions. How do we actually understand how these things work? When you make your networks, here's one for image processing. Raw data, a whole image of pixels, and in low-level features, these kind of black and white lines, borders. Eventually, at higher levels, we have other nodes which say, well, certain sets of borders are certain pieces of like a face, like an eye or something like that, or a mouth. And then you get to the higher level thing which said, these are types of faces I know. So as you feed in your pixels, you have different layers of these networks, which as they process, they say, okay, those are a bunch of edges. I see an edge now, and those edges in a certain pattern. Well, that's actually part of a face, or a lip or something like that. And so then so many lip features come up to a certain type of face. And so you have this hierarchy of understanding, or of evolution, if you will, of the picture to determine if it's a face or not when you run through a network, for instance. And with deep neural nets, same sort of thing, your line thing, your face nodes. So you have all these input nodes. And they're basically numbers. And these various connections are kind of like, how do we put it, like valves. They've got certain weights on them, cost functions, if you will. And these networks can be huge. And but we call each one different parameters. Some of the larger neural nets, which do really cool things like understand speech and even have conversations with you, which is GPT-3, has 1.7 billion parameters. It's like, how do I turn those knobs and tweak? That's a lot to tweak. So these things kind of feed back on themselves, and they tweak themselves, and they get better and better over more and more use. Just amazing. Anyhow, so different examples of different inputs. Can you see a car maybe, a bird maybe? So so it looks at these things and tries to extract out the imagery. RNNs are for text again. Example of a Tolkien story. It would talk back and forth to you. Deep learning can describe things like a girl sitting on a bench holding an umbrella, and so a picture. Is this one? Which one is this? This is from vision to language. So you give the computer this, and it tells you this, and it shows what it's focusing. The girl was here, bench was there, umbrella was this thing over here, or a herd of sheep. What is that? Well, that's a herd of sheep grazing on a lush green hillside. And so some of these can go from pictures to text, some can go from text to pictures. The most recent one is DALL-E. Is that next? Oh, I talk about GANs. Well, I might just jump right to DALL-E. That's kind of fun because this one is neat. This one actually will take your text and generate imagery and artwork and pictures that are better than the artist would do. And it might impact, like if you're a company selling something, you hire an artist to get a rough idea. Now you can just type it into the computer. It gives you 16, 20, 30 different things in about 4 or 5 seconds. Says, wow, that's exactly the kind of picture I was looking for. And this is the founder, Demis Habbassis of DeepMind. Let's just run I have a quick little video here. I was getting kind of short on time.
Have you ever seen a polar bear playing bass? Or a robot painted like a Picasso? Didn't think so. DALL-E 2 is a new AI system from OpenAI that can take simple text descriptions like a koala dunking a basketball and turn them into photorealistic images that have never existed before. DALL-E 2 can also realistically edit and retouch photos. Based on a simple natural language description, it can fill in or replace part of an image with AI-generated imagery that blends seamlessly with the original. It's called inpainting. In January 2021, OpenAI introduced DALL-E, a system that could generate images from text, like this avocado armchair. DALL-E 2 takes the technology even further with higher resolution, greater comprehension, and new capabilities, like inpainting. It can even start with an image as an input and create variations with different angles and styles.
Impressive.
DALL-E was created by training a neural network on images and their text descriptions. Through deep learning, it not only understands individual objects, like koala bears and motorcycles, but learns from relationships between objects. And when you ask DALL-E for an image of a koala bear riding a motorcycle, it knows how to create that or anything else with a relationship to another object or action. The DALL-E research has 3 main outcomes. First, it can help people express themselves visually in ways they may not have been able to before. Second, an AI-generated image can tell us a lot about whether the system understands us or is just repeating what it's been taught.
Get it?
Third, DALL-E helps humans understand how AI systems see and understand our world. This is a critical part of developing AI that's useful and safe. The technology is constantly evolving, and DALL-E 2 has limitations. If it's taught with images that are incorrectly labeled, like a plane labeled car, and a user tries to generate a car, DALL-E may create a plane. It's like talking to a person who learned the wrong word for something. DALL-E can also be limited by gaps in its training. If you type baboon and DALL-E has learned what a baboon is through images and accurate labels, it will generate a lot of great baboons. But if you type howler monkey and it hasn't learned what a howler monkey is, DALL-E will give you its best idea of what it thinks it could be, like a howling monkey.
Isn't that cool?
What's exciting about the approach used to train DALL-E is that it can take what it learned from a variety of other labeled images and then apply it to a new image. Given a picture of a monkey, DALL-E can infer what it would look like doing something it's never done before, like paying its taxes while wearing a funny hat. DALL-E is an example of how imaginative humans and clever systems can work together to make new things, amplifying our creative potential.
So that's off of OpenAI's site. It's a good summary. It's great. And so, just to goof around, I was going to say we can go to their and it does work. You're right, it works. This is the DALL-E website itself, and just to, like these, we're Kopernik. We do space, right? So it's kind of cool. An astronaut on a horse. So an astronaut riding a horse in a photorealistic style, in the style of Andy Warhol, in the style of drawing pencil. So it knows these different styles because it looked at hundreds of millions of images of all these different examples, and it knows from the speech reco. Oh, I'm sorry. In this case, I'm sorry. It's text. It's not speech reco. That'd be an add-on. From the text, natural language processing, to the image processing to generate these things. It's just quite impressive. And of course, I love the teddy bear ones. Teddy bears mixing sparkling chemicals as mad scientists on a Saturday morning cartoon, or as digital art, or as steampunk style. I don't know what that means. Or working on new AI research in kids' crayons, or on the moon, or underwater. Just a bunch of cute things. So you can go to the website as well, OpenAI/DALL-E 2, and there's all examples how it takes original stuff and how it takes original artists and tries to enhance their work. It's just quite impressive. Like I said, this is Claudette Monet, and this is what its impression was. Not bad. From DALL-E 1 to DALL-E 2 as it tried to make things better. So it's just quite impressive what these things can do. And if you can do stuff like this, certain jobs might be impacted, like artists or designers or who knows what. Other examples of AI and big data, banking industry, that's going to change in a big way. Healthcare, one of the examples is a patient, radiologists, they read x-rays and stuff. They spend all this time, hours, Well, computers can go very fast, very consistent, and come up with, as long as they know the right answers, they can say, well, this is a cancer, or this is bronchitis, or this is, if you're looking at the lung or something like that. So with those pattern matching things, imagine oil, gas exploration, e-commerce, like Google or Alibaba, these guys, they have ways of matching stuff to what you might be interested in, right? Even an example before the Geisinger Health, they had patients, they got to do certain examples of ultrasonography, that's sound waves, and they could see who's going to have a heart issue or not. Kind of interesting. That was done a couple years ago. So, like I said, vision systems, looking at x-rays, doing tests on oncology, blood things. I mean, humans, doctors are good, but they get tired and they fail. If you have computers to repeat these things over and over again, the doctors now go to a higher level. They can actually review this and say, okay, they reviewed all these x-rays and stuff, and it says this, and I concur. I mean, there's examples of radiologists who look at ophthalmology, x-rays of the eye, whatever, and over time, they disagreed with themselves. They put their same pictures back up, and they said, that's wrong, and where they, of course, the computer is very accurate. They said, nope, that's exactly the same thing. So what are the applications? Pick one. Making chairs you're sitting on, maybe, who knows? Like we saw in the earlier example, it can help design things we've never seen designed before. But certainly in every field you can imagine, we're touching. It can be digitized, it can be scanned with sensors, it can be analyzed. I mean, just agriculture alone. We now have self-driving tractors. Yep, they're out there. And they're in the fields doing things. You see like the robots that mow your grass and stuff. Well, this is a big version of that. They're driving tractors. Long, boring stuff, right? Mining trucks, huge mining trucks. I can't think of the vendors. Caterpillar and stuff like that. They've got teleoperated where you can sit back and drive from one cockpit and they drive a bunch of trucks around like race cars on the racetrack. And they've also got some self-awareness so they can actually make sure and bump into things and stuff like that too. All sorts of things, just quite amazing, as you see the whole list there. But there are some issues. Based on how you train, there's bias. And we saw that an example they mentioned, where was it? They showed a picture of a plane, they said car. And they said, let's see a car. Also, a plane popped up, it generated a plane. Well, if it's trained wrong, it reacts wrong. This is going to sound weird, but a lot of these people are white males. And so things related to black people, females, and stuff like that, sometimes don't represent properly. This is a problem. When we have legal systems and people get recidivism and all of a sudden people don't get approved to get out of jail, they must go back to jail. These things happen in those populations. Also the black box problem. Things are happening, these neural networks we don't quite understand, but they're working and it's fantastic and we can try them over and over again, but we need to have an audit trail. How does this really work and what sort of nodes are happening? What sort of those 175 billion parameters in GP3 system we can talk to it? How does that work? That's a lot of work. But certainly, there's a lot of tools out there. Cloud adoption is pushing forward. Robots are coming to take our jobs. Well, maybe. I'm going to end with this, by the way. So robots are coming. They say that they could replace automated jobs. It could be in the future. But that's why I tell my son, you're going to be a robot repairman. Because as long as you fix robots. Or how about this? A robot psychologist or an AI psychologist. When the AI is feeling sad, you say, don't hurt people. Be a good AI. There's supposedly another picture here from Xiaomi, another robot, but you've heard Musk talk about, I'm going to have my Optimus robot. Well, turns out he was beat to the punch. A Chinese company just released, like a week ago, their version, which is called Cyber 1. And this little thing kind of shows it in a kind of silly fashion. But this is where he would like to announce sometime this fall a similar product. I'm sure there'll be a lot of this starts like that, right? But the bottom line, this has 75 different emotions. It can hold, grab, you can talk to it, it comes to you. It's exactly what Musk wants to build in his version, which is supposed to be going to be released as a prototype in the fall now. And this is, of course, Tesla's. It's called Optimus. And it's a lot of cute pictures, nothing's moving yet. But Elon Musk's point with Tesla is they have the general intelligence they figure for the self-driving cars that'll be embedded in this, but the people who are the mechanics, mechanical engineers, actuators, and sensor guys, they try to make something like you saw actually working, the Cyber 1 guys from China, from Xiaomi. So we'll have to see if that's actually going to play out. If I just go forward, here's a short time. Here's Cyber One walking out to talk to his president, founder. This happened a couple weeks ago. So is Elon that far off? Maybe this could happen. Maybe this could be a reality.
铁蛋，你还会什么动作啊？
我刚刚学会走路，下盘还不太稳，正在练习扎马步。
大家来看看这个扎马步，是不是很稳、很标准？
我听到了掌声，是不是说明我做得很好？
大家都说你这个动作很帅，要不我们一起合个影？
你来呀。
OK。我用我们刚刚发布的小米折叠屏手机来合影。
So he takes a picture with it, big deal.
好。
But the bottom line is, it does move. It does hopefully not fall down. And Elon's saying, well, you know.
Computer, essentially the inference engine on the car, which will keep evolving.
He says we have robots on wheels now.
Dojo, and all of the neural nets, recognizing the world, understanding how to navigate through the world. It kind of makes sense to put that onto a humanoid form.
So his point is it's a natural progression. We'll have the AI smart cars, which are aware of their environment, navigate the other side working. We can actually kind of build something like you just saw the Chinese did with their robot, which we don't know how good it is, but it seems to didn't fall down on stage, you know. But if you had such a person like that, or a robot, a person, listen, I'm humanizing already. If you had such a thing like that in your home, it could go around, it could take care of things, it could clean up things. Initially, Tesla will do it in their factories to kind of further automate the factories. He's making a machine that builds the machines so he can beat everyone else. And if there's a labor shortage today and a training shortage with labor, and these things come out and they work all the time for no insurance, for no vacation, for no pay, well, you can leave it to your own decide what may happen there, but it could be part of our future. That's why I think a robot repairman's a very good occupation. So what jobs will disappear? Taxi drivers, you have self-driving cars, truck drivers maybe, printers and publishers. Some of these AIs will generate text for you already from summarization. Today, I go to Walmart, I just use their app, I'm scanning things, I don't even talk to a cashier, right? I don't know. Travel agents, that was a long time ago, right? Manufacturing, maybe robots are coming, as I showed you. Maybe in the future, smart drones, you know, we want pilots, right? In Ukraine right now, they're winning with just drones and stuff, and they don't need airplanes. How about that? That'll save a lot of money, but that changes a lot of jobs too. Construction worldwide, I did my other talk on Future Tech, we talked about 3D printing of buildings and stuff, automation, these things are coming. Any repetitive job, but lots of data, even programmers, we could be outsourced, who knows. And of course, I did as I had on my other talk about, you know, making pizzas robotically and then delivering them, it's kind of fun. So how do you keep up with this stuff? Well, they talk about maybe not fight the machine, but maybe work with the machine, kind of learn to live with the machine. So there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of universities are changing in this direction. There's a lot of online learning. And who knows, maybe you get some, in the short term, you get some certificates in some of these things in your current job. May help out. And as the future goes forward, the universities and the educational systems are changing. And they're moving forward to try to handle these things. So with that, it is a bright future. It just may be maybe like the movie Wall-E. We get to sit back and everything else happens for us. But tons of abundance, we'll have to see. So with that, I say thank you, and hopefully you had fun. Excuse me. And any random questions? Well, we got a minute or two before Drew comes in, or we lost Drew. He was here a second ago.
Any questions for Keith?
Oh yeah, sure.
If I'm not mistaken, the people in Japan are building robot caregivers for older people because the younger people have no kids, so they've got way too many old folks.
This is, once again, Musk would say we need more people in the world because they're all dying off, and we're only having one child. Like, we only have one child, my wife and I, and so it's true. As people get older, we have to take care of them, and you know, automated devices, either being companions or helpers, I think is a big thing. Japan's huge on robotics. I mean, I'd say they're a decade ahead of America and China getting to the game last, because they've always had stuff. You know, I mean, that Asimo from Honda was back in the 80s. That was amazing. Have the robot walk around, do stuff like that. It did some basic stuff, but then if we have the robots that like Cyber One's supposed to do, and I guess what Elon wants to do with his Optimus, it'll actually be able to lift a few 5, 6, 10 pounds and only go about 3 miles an hour. So if you want to outrun it for safety, you can and stuff like that. But so he says. But these things are going to come. They're going to be there. They're going to help us, and they're going to help meet some of the job needs. People want to do stuff. I mean, I'm just expounding here. Sorry, but like the Spot with the little robot dog thing. That's useful to go into nuclear reactors to take care of stuff when there's accidents, because I'm not going in there, right? Chernobyl, things like that. So, and even for like, and I think in the future we'll see things like fire rescue services. We'll have robots that go in the house and do things and take the hoses and stuff, and it'll just be amazing. Have the robot truck pull up, push buttons, and analyze the situation and start handling things, search for people. It'll cost a lot of money, but if it gets cheaper in the future, these things I think will come as. I fantasized once that I would have my self-driving car with a robot arm in the back. Doing Amazon deliveries, throwing packages out the back of the trunk, while people inside the car getting a free ride while I'm getting paid for that as a taxi. So who knows what crazy things might happen in the future. So I expound. Anyhow, so any other thoughts? Yeah.
Research is being done on building an AI that will explain how it reached its conclusion.
That is one of the main crux. Yep. Especially in neural nets. I mean, in rule-based systems, it was easy because you saw the path. In AI, we have to now try to follow those paths, but we have these billions of paths. I should say this pattern gets its conclusion in a certain amount of time, or I'm sorry, in a certain amount of instances. So we have a high percentage, so we consider that on a probability that that's going to be, but these are real issues which people are looking at. And even my company, I work for Leidos now, a spinoff of Lockheed, and they're talking about having ethical AI. AI does the right thing versus not so good things, and sort of explainable. But these are real issues, and I'm not up to date on that research, but you can imagine that's exactly, I can imagine how they might try to look at that, but it's going to be difficult with neural nets and all these various connections, except to just watch recurrences, which brings me back to an issue of what if your self-driving car does this the right way all the time, but one time that one thing is off, and all of a sudden it decides to run over the cat, or go another way or something. How can you explain that? And then you have the AI lawyer fighting it in court with the AI robot. Who knows where this could go? So we all sit back and go, is this a simulation? I get weird, but who knows? Could go down a path. So I'm not sure if I give you the right answer, but certainly that is a real issue. And I could just say, well, we can go Google it, and you can probably find there's probably lots of research on that out there. It's amazing. Everything tends to be online, because the more it's online, the more chances you get funded. Like I said, back in 2010, when DeepMind started, that was like the end of the AI winter and neural nets, and it doesn't work. It's just starting to work, and you couldn't get funding. But now, 12 years later, everyone wants to jump on this bandwagon, and I want my kid to take an AI class when he gets to college, or even high school, or whatever. So these things are going to become easier to use, and someday you'll be building video games with simple stuff in a couple of years online, probably. You want to buy your own video games? You just make your own. That'll kill another industry. So change is coming. Change is coming. You can just think. So, okay, well.
Testing. Okay, here we go. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Worker.
Sure.
And so at this point, the sky should be clear. That's what our forecast said previously. So I welcome you to go outside. We're getting the scope set up on some of the objects that are out there tonight, including Saturn should be rising in just a bit, if it's not already above the horizon. And if you didn't have the chance already, please go ahead and view our Perseverance Mars display. That's not going to be around for too much longer. That has to go back to NASA. The James Webb and rocket exhibit in the back is Kopernik, so that's going to stick around. So definitely take a look at those too. Those on our live stream, thank you so much for watching tonight. We'll see you next time.